Okay, where were we? Anyway, so what we got to do is we need to get this this arm to float. Okay, and we're going to try combinations of weights to the point. Oops. This is why you need to use brass. Okay, and don't have a nice record under here, obviously, because if we drop something, we don't want to scratch the record. This is just our alignment record, so we don't care about scratching that really. So anyway, we got to get this sucker to float. All right, there we go. That's where we want it. Okay, now what we want to do is we want this arm to be tangential here. So we want it perpendicular to our scribe line, and we want it perpendicular to our arm shaft. Okay, and the way we achieve that is we adjust the feet, or we could use shims under it, whatever means that you feel comfortable with. I would recommend unscrewing the feet a little bit, but always make sure that if you're going to raise the left side, that your right side, for example, has the feet fully screwed in, because we want a situation where we're not unscrewing feet unless we have to. All right, so we want, in this case, we want to lift the left side, and you'll see the arm swing over to the outboard side when we do that. Right now I'm lifting the left side just slightly. See that? As we lift the left, the arm swings outboard. Okay? Pretty cool, huh? And right now, obviously, the left side is too low. So what we do is would go ahead and unscrew the feet just a little bit. Okay, it's kind of hard to do when you're, doing all this simultaneously. But anyway, it can be done if you're careful. So we'll unscrew it a little bit. Okay, and you can see that we're affecting an improvement. Okay. All right. So we get that. And of course, all this is done with the power off. That's critical. You got to do that. It wouldn't even work if you didn't have the power off, because the arm would be applying at least a ½ gram of downward tracking force. Okay, and you can't work around that. It doesn't have a 0 gram tracking force provision. If it did, it would make this procedure a lot easier, I think. But this is how you have to do it. Okay, so we got our brass weights on there for an arm that's approximately floating horizontal. Okay, and we got our arm pretty close to tangential at this point. All right. Okay. All right, that's fairly close. That's pretty good right there. Okay. The next thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to double check our front to rear, okay, in this direction here, leveling. All right, so what we're going to do is very carefully, because we don't want to damage a cantilever. All right, as a matter of fact, there's no reason why you shouldn't have your stylus guard put on the cartridge before you did all of this, to be safe. But this doesn't have a stylus guard, so I can't do that. So we're going to very, very carefully bring this record out, and we're going to put this on here. Okay, now what we're concerned with is the fore and aft, front to rear leveling. And it's off a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. That's another thing too. These mats are never perfectly uniform in thickness. They vary a little bit. I mean, nothing's perfect in this world, and even the machine surface at the top of the platter is not perfect. So you're just going to have to kind of get an average. Don't pick it apart. You know, it's just get it as good as you can. And you're looking for the bubble, of course, to be in the center of the bullseye. And but only in the front to rear direction. Ignore whatever it says in this direction, because this is what matters, okay? Not this. And I can go into the reasons why, but I'm telling you, this is how you do it, okay? And this is where the tire hits the pavement, okay? I'll briefly explain, if I'm capable of that, as to why, if we get this correct in the left to right direction, it won't be correct here under some conditions, because of production tolerances, and there's no guarantee that the main motor is attached to the plinth perfectly perpendicular to the plinth. There's no guarantee that the arm shaft is attached perfectly parallel with the plinth. There's no guarantee that the arm itself has the bearings in the exact correct position. There are production tolerances, and they all add up, they accumulate, and they produce a bigger error than any one of them. So that's what causes all this. So it's great that this coincides pretty much and agrees with what we have here. But if our bubble level did not agree left and right, we would not make a big deal about that. Again, all that matters is that this arm is floating so that the arm pipe is perpendicular to the arm shaft, okay? And this holds true regardless of what SLT table that you're working with. All right, hope I'm clear on that. All right, I guess there's only one other thing I can show you, and that would be where this auxiliary counterweight goes. We can pull off these little brass weights now. That makes the arm safer, and so if we had a head shell cartridge combination of greater than 17 grams, excuse me, then we would use our auxiliary counterweight to rectify that situation. So we pull off this little access cover, and we take our auxiliary counterweight and we screw it in to the back of the arm back here. Like so. But we only do that if we're exceeding 17 grams with the combined cartridge and head shell mass, okay? But that's how you do it, so you know. We don't need it in this with this particular cartridge and head shell combination, okay? Take it off, put this back on. Oh, and there's one other thing I wanted to show you on a PS-X800. It's a very common problem, and I developed a kit to deal with it. Just get this back in first. Okay. Alright. I can show you a few other things too. I think the best thing to do would be to power this guy back up, and it'll go home on its own. And let's see here. Hang on a minute. I'm going to get my digital vernier caliper out. Okay. Alright. Again, you really need to have an electronic gram scale. And for this turntable, you got to have one that's pretty thin. So let me show you how thick mine is. Okay. It's a little over 361 thousandths. Okay, so if you combine the platform, that's about 400 thousandths thick. Okay. Alright. If you go thicker than that, it won't work on a PS-X800. It will on the other SLT tables, but not on this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let's clip this up here so we don't have any disasters. Okay, and go ahead and turn this guy on. And of course, we got to make sure, always make sure on a PS-X800 that it has completed auto zero balance. All right, and the LED will tell you that it needs to be on, and then it needs to be off. If it's not off, it did not complete auto zero balance. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move the arm over a little bit, and then we're going to just put this so that the cartridge lands as close to the center of the platform as possible. It can't be exactly in the center for obvious reasons. The platter's in the way. Okay, so if it timed out, fire it up again, drop her on down. Okay, I've got it set to 0.5 grams. Okay, and it's reading 0.6 grams. That's not a problem. That's within the range of the vertical friction characteristics of the vertical bearings. So you'll find that if you cue up and cue down several times, it will probably find 0.5 grams. Okay, except in this case. But that's okay. That's about as close as you can normally get it anyway with the calibration. Okay. Oh, 0.7 on that one. 0.7. Also, too, it matters how warmed up the turntable is. So this isn't really warmed up. So I've been powering it on and powering it off. So anyway, but watch what happens here. As we raise this, we can see it change there. Okay. So we're dead on correct. It says 1.5, and that's what we're reading there. I've got it set to 2. It's at 2.1. Oh, timed out. That's one of the problems with some of these electronic gram scales. They time out too quickly. Okay, so anyway, but you get the point. We can check our tracking force in this manner. Okay, so we'll bring it back down to 1.5, which is where this is supposed to be. And okay, what else? I guess that's about all I can really show you on a PS-X800. I mean, I can show you the operation of it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and hit our auto start. And this is how smooth these things should be. Again, this was freshly calibrated by myself, and you can see it operates pretty darn smoothly. So I've already shown you the fast cue and regular cue, right cue and fast cue. Oh, here's something I can go over with you. I don't know if you can see it from here. I don't think you can, and I don't want to disturb the camera. But anyway, in our display we have our locked display. That means that the phase lock loop is engaged and functioning properly. So if we hit our speed to 45 RPM, we notice that it's locked very quickly, like within a second, all right? And we go back to 33, and about a second later, it's locked again. So we have a very quick locking occurring on this, which is how it's supposed to be. What you can do is for a very short duration, we can just transient load symmetrically the record and observe our locked status indicator, okay? And if it doesn't disengage and we have a continuous locked display condition, then we're doing really well. If it unlocks but then locks again very, very quickly, like within a half second, and does not oscillate, in other words, it might say locked, and then the lock light will go out, and then it'll lock again, and then the light will go out. That's what I mean by an oscillation. If that's happening, then our calibration is incorrect, okay? But normally you don't even have to transient load this in order to determine the adjustment of the motor operating point. All you have to do is just switch it to 33 and then switch it back to 45 and observe how fast it locks, okay? That gives us an idea of the health of the calibration, what kind of condition that's in. All right, and of course we have a repeat button. So if we go here, drop it down, it'll pick up at the proper point, go back home, and well, actually not all the way home. It does that, and then it'll drop down and play the record again. Standard repeat function. Okay, turn it off, hit stop, and it will go back home, and that's the end of that. Alright, these lights tend to go out fairly regularly, so those lamps, when they go out, you lose your automatic record size determination function in the turntable, which is what these slots are for. When I put a 12-inch disc on here, I cover up not only this slot, but this slot as well. And you notice a total of 6 slots there. But what we're concerned with is not these others so much, but the outer one and the inner one. So when we put this 12-inch disc on, both are covered up, and the logic knows that you're playing a 12-inch disc. If I were to put a smaller disc on there, then the outer hole would be exposed, allowing the light to go in, and then the sensors pick it up from there, and then it knows that we're playing a smaller disc, and then it compensates for that. Now if there's no record on there, no disc at all, then here's what happens. If I'm a bonehead and I go and hit start, it'll say, whoa, something's wrong, and it brings the arm back home and refuses to bring it in, because if it did, stylus would go down on the mat and get torn off by these holes, or even the roughness of the mat. So it's a pretty smart table regarding that. Okay, one last thing, the dust cover. Alright, these dust covers tend to crack here on the lower side, okay? And this one on this side's in better shape, but this one has been repaired in the past. So what I did is I developed these machined aluminum, what I call hinge pocket supports. And what they do is, after you prep the original hinge pocket, you can go ahead and glue these aluminum hinge pocket supports on, or strengtheners on, and you won't have that problem with the hinge pocket breaking out anymore. It's a brand new product, and I'm still kind of developing the installation procedure. I think I've got it perfected, but you can see a little bit of bubbling there, but there's only so much you can do regarding adhesive, doing that sort of thing. And you got to use just the right adhesive, because if you don't, these strengtheners will just break off, and then you're back to square one. So I use the proper adhesive on that, and its characteristic is such that you might get a little bit of bubbling, but it's really not that bad in my opinion. So if it's objectionable to anybody, they can always tape it off and paint just a section back here or something like that. It's up to the individual, but anyway. And so here we go. It's hard for me to do this with the camera in the way, but okay, so it's all the way down. There we go. That's that, and I'm going to wrap up this video. It's extremely late at night. I have to deliver this turntable tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this and it wasn't too much of a drag. But anyway, take care. Thanks a lot. I'll catch up with you later.